Sometimes it can take quite a while, depending on how detailed your piece is and how altered it might become. You may want to do it faster, you may want to do it slower. And what I find starts to help is once I've gotten the shamrock to more or less how I like it looking, especially once it starts working into the clear, that's when final edits come in here. So if you want the leaves looking a certain way, now is the time when you got to poke at them. This is a sort of a speak now or forever hold your peace kind of a deal. Because if you don't adjust them now, once they get worked into that clear glass, forget it. The amount of glass you'll have to distort to correct your piece, it just won't be worth it. Okay, let's make sure this is nice and flat. Okay, now what I'm going to do to move this process along a little faster is I'm going to take my clear rod here, I'm going to heat it up, and I'm going to start to draw it over the top of the shamrock. Now you could leave it just as is right now, and that would be fine. It's properly worked in there, it's not going anywhere. But this, I find, will help you to get the piece done a little faster, and if you do it properly, it'll look great. It'll look great. So, a little bit of heat here. What we're going to do is we're going to take our rod, it's nice and hot, and we're going to press it onto the shamrock and draw across it. Quite literally, just like that. Keep the shamrock, throw a little bit of heat at it, and take our rod and draw. The idea here is that we're putting clear glass right over the top, so now we don't have to work it in. And the clear glass is super hot when we're putting it on there, so it's going to bond with the glass that on the surface it touches. And actually, especially with the clear glass, what you'll notice is as you're drawing it on top of your shamrock, the colors of your shamrock will immediately begin heating up, because the heat from the clear glass is going to transfer to them beautifully. Okay, you just want to try to get most of the surface. You're going to work this in anyway. Alright, and that's decent. Yes, okay, now I'm going to give it a lot more heat. We're just going to go ahead and let this melt in. This clear glass needs to melt in. So you want to throw a lot of heat at it. Every so often stop and adjust to make sure, give a little pat on the surface, make sure it looks okay. Be careful of your stick, be careful of your rod here, you don't want that to start getting out of control. Heat the whole thing up. And if you see any part where it looks like you didn't get enough clear glass on it, doesn't look like, and that looks like I've got a spot down here where I didn't put enough clear glass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this cool a bit, just a bit, before I go adding more. Because it's already super hot, it's already very hot. So if I start adding more hot glass to already hot glass and I start drawing the rod across it, it's going to distort it. You see, clear glass has a higher working temperature than colored, and that's because the metal present in the colored glass is different, and a lot of times will heat up a lot faster than with the clear glass. As a result, the heat from the clear glass transfers over to the coloreds and heats them up much faster. And because it heats them up much faster, that means that they can warp, or be moved, I should say. Which means you have a very good chance of ruining your piece if you move too quickly. So, there we go. Go ahead and give that a light press, just to even out the surface. Work this top area a bit. Again, front and back. This is also the point when you want to start focusing on your final shape for your pendant. If you want it very round, if you want it more oblong in shape, this is where you're going to want to take your paddle and start pressing in on the sides to get the shape you want. Alright, that's starting to look really nice. Alright, so let's move on to the top. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our another clear rod, and we're going to do a punty stick right here to the bottom. So get this rod nice and hot. Touch it to the glass. Give it a second to make sure it's on there good. And heat up the rod you were using previously. Get that separated. Set that down on the wood. Alright, let's work this tip in. Because this top area, near where your rod was not worked in as well, more likely than not. And this is because obviously if you distorted your rod, you'd have a hard time working this piece. So, now is the opportunity to work that area in. Front and back, top and bottom. This is very time consuming, this part. So make sure that you've allotted yourself enough time, and make sure that you don't rush it. You want to try to make sure that your top is very even. And that's because that's where you're going to put your hook, so that way this pendant can be worn. And if your glass piece is not centered with your hook, it's going to look off, and not in a good way. And I'm heating the sides here to kind of give them a more rounded edge, a rounded look to them. Okay. Remember, gravity is your friend. Sometimes the best thing to do is just to heat it up, hold it vertically, and let gravity pull it down naturally. You might have to do that a couple times. Heat up the area that you want to move and where you want it to go, and just hold it up there. And last minute paddle, check the surface. And I'm liking how that's looking. So, now I'm going to switch to a smaller flame. We'll go a neutral one. A little too neutral. It's a little bit more oxidizing. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to make our hook. Actually, I'm going to sharpen this up quite a bit more. There we go. Now this time we're not doing a temporary stick. This is going to be the actual factual hook. So make sure you work this rod in really good. This is where all the strain is going to be from the weight of this piece. When someone is wearing this around their neck, this is where it's going to be at. So you want to make sure this is strong enough. Take your time. Make sure your gather is good and strong, properly worked in. And what you want to do is, as you're heating it, slowly start to pull it out and away. Make sure it's worked in properly. And when you've got a thickness you like, pull it out to about, I'd say, a good